Guten Morgen to you, dear Lana. Now, in this topic, we're going to be speaking on the past and perfect tenses. You have been able to cover quite a lot of topics in a very short period of time. Let me first of all congratulate you on that. Now, today, let's proceed then and look at the past and even the perfect tenses. How do we form them and such like things? So let's go ahead. The topic which is on the imperfect and perfect tenses. The imperfect and perfect tenses. Now, they're proceeding to tell you that they are all used to refer to the past tense. Let's begin with the first one. That is the imperfect tense. We call it imperfect tense or commonly known as past tense. In German is Präteritum. Okay? So remember it's the imperfect tense, which is the same as the past tense. All right? So let's now talk about this past tense. In English, we know the past tense as a quick example: walk, walked, talk, talked, right? Eat, ate. So the past tense is the second one. Look at this one. They're telling you that when forming the past tense, just like in English, it is divided into the regular and irregular verbs. Right? Now, for the regular verbs, the past tense is formed using the verb stem and a suffix te. Now, remember in English, we have also the regular and irregular ones in terms of forming the past tense. Now, the regular ones are those that you will simply be adding ed: walk, walked, talk, talked, watch, watched, look, looked. Those ones are the regular ones because they maintain vowels. And then we also have the irregular ones. Now, for the irregular ones, are those ones that have vowels changing within the verb stem. Things like eat, ate. All right. Another irregular one is find, found. All right. These ones we call irregular. So back to the point, they're telling you that when forming the past tense, just like in English, it is divided into the regular and irregular verbs. Now, for the regular verbs, the past tense is formed using the verb stem and the suffix te. In past tense, ich and er, sie, es normally have the same endings. The other personal pronouns maintain their usual verb endings, like we normally conjugate from back then. Okay. So here's an example. Kochen. The verb is kochen. So present tense would say ich koche, and then past ich kochte. Right? Ich koche, and then the past now becomes ich kochte. Now you can see what has happened here. We've used the verb stem koch, and then you add te. Kochte. Ich kochte. Maybe in the other tenses, do ko in the other personal pronouns, do kochtest, you cooked. Es kochte, he, she, it cooked. Sie kochten, you cooked. Ihr kochtet, wir kochten, in that order. All right, which now means cooked. And then ich spiele. Spiele is present tense. So in the past becomes ich spielte. Spielte. You're now seeing that in the past tense, they're having the verb stem and then adding the te. Spielen, spielte. Right? Spielte. etc. Now, for the past tense, as long as you know it in the ish form, you're safe. But you're seeing one commonality that for the past tense, for the regular ones, we add te to the verb stem. Kochen, kochte. Spielen, spielte. And there the example is rauchen, rauchte. Like in the example, wir rauchten. Remember present tense is wir rauchen Zigaretten. The past is wir rauchten Zigaretten. All right. Okay, let's take the next example with arbeiten. Arbeiten. Present tense is ich arbeite. Past tense is ich arbeitete. All right. So you've now seen there that for you to form the past tense for the regular ones, what you'll be doing is you'll be simply adding te to the verb stem. Okay. For the irregular verbs, there are lots of vowel changes in the verb stems and endings and must be learned the way they are. Now you can see for the irregular ones, there are a lot of vowels changing within the verb stem. So therefore one has to learn them the way they are because they're completely irregular. All right. Examples of such irregular ones, mostly they don't have a pattern. That's why it's important that one learns them the way they are. Let's now see some examples right there. The first example that you have been provided with is schreiben. Schreiben. So in present tense, we will say ich schreibe. Ich schreibe. I am writing. In the past is now ich schrieb. Schrieb. Wrote. I wrote. All right. Ich singe. I am singing or I sing. And the past is ich sang. I sang. Ich sang. I sang. So if you say ich sang, it can mean I sang or I was singing. Ich helfe. Present tense. I am helping or I help. Then past is ich half. Remember we said as long as you know it in the ish form, the other forms, you just add the normal endings. Du halfst, es half, sie halfen, as you proceed in that order. All right? As long as you know it in the ish form, then you're safe. Now, ich esse. Esse is eat or eating. Ich esse. I eat or I am eating. Now, the past tense is I ate, which is ich ass, double S or with an es. Ich komme, and then past, ich kam. Ich fahre, that becomes ich fu. All right. Now, those are some examples of the irregular ones that one has to learn them the way they are because they don't have some specific pattern. All right. Let's proceed then and have a look at also the perfect tense. Now, how do you form the perfect tense? In English, it is normally formed using the helping verb haben. In English, we normally form it using the helping verb have plus past participle, right? Like I have eaten, we have gone to school, we have written a book. So you can see in English what happens is that you will form it by using have plus past participle. I have gone, I have eaten, we have gone, right? How about in German? In German, it is formed either using haben or sein. You know, English is easy. In English, we just used have gone, have eaten, have slept, yeah? But in German, it is formed either using haben stroke sein plus past participle. Haben stroke sein plus past participle. Example, ich habe ein Buch gekauft. Ich bin in Deutschland gegangen, right? I know you might be asking, now how do I know when to use haben and when to use sein? Because they're those verbs which will form their perfect with habe, like in ich habe ein Buch gekauft. And then they're those which form with sein. Ich bin in Deutschland gegangen. So let's now see when do we use haben and when do we use sein when forming the perfect tense. Let's go ahead then. So we begin with the haben, perfect plus haben. We use haben in forming the perfect, number one, with transitive verbs. With transitive verbs, that is, verbs with accusative objects. So you'll be using the haben for those verbs that go with accusative. Remember, we said that transitive verbs are those verbs that need an object to be complete, right? Things like to buy, to take, to eat, they will be forming their perfect tense using haben, right? Like in the example, ich habe das Auto gekauft. You're seeing the position. Are you seeing the positioning of the past participle coming at the end? English, you would have said, I have bought the car. But in German, you say, I have the car bought. Ich habe das Auto gekauft. Wir haben Milch getrunken. So Remember, we used the haben, number one, with transitive verbs. Number two, we also use haben with reflexive verbs. Reflexive verbs are those that normally have sich umziehen, sich waschen, yeah, sich ärgern. So these reflexive verbs also, they form their perfect tenses using haben. In the example, ich habe mich umgezogen. Ich habe mich umgezogen. I have moved out. Okay. Number three, with verbs that describe a condition stroke situation. With verbs that describe a condition stroke situation. So this is also from the perfect tense with the haben. Example, you can see the verb here is schlafen. Ich habe 10 Stunden. Ich habe 10 Stunden lang geschlafen, which now means I slept or I have slept for 10 long hours. You can see this one describes a condition that I have slept for 10 long hours. So they also form the perfect with have. So those are the examples that form their perfect tenses with have. Let us now proceed and see those that form their perfect tenses with sein. Let's go ahead. Verbs showing movement from point A to point B. Those verbs that show movement from one place to another, they always form their perfect tense with sein. An example is ich bin nach Deutschland gegangen. The verb gehen forms with sein. Verbs of movement. Gehen, fahren, fliegen. They form their perfect tenses with sein. Ich bin nach Deutschland gegangen. Wir sind nach Italien gefahren. Wir sind nach Italien gefahren. We traveled to Italy. So these verbs of movement kindly ensure that they form their perfect with design. Number two, verbs showing a change of state or condition also, they form their perfect with sein. Example, sie ist schon 6 Uhr aufgewacht. Sie ist schon 6 Uhr aufgewacht. She got up she got up at 8 o'clock. Ihre Mutter ist sehr alt geworden. Her mother is becoming old. And then verbs showing occurrences. Verbs showing occurrences also form the perfect tense with sein. Things like to happen, to occur, they form the perfect tense with sein. An example is heute ist schon wieder etwas passiert. Passiert. Heute ist schon wieder etwas passiert. The word passiert from the verb passieren, to occur or to happen. So the sentence means that something occurred today. Something occurred today. And then das Projekt ist gescheitert. Okay, the line which is now das Projekt ist gescheitert, which now means the project failed or has failed. And then lastly, the verbs sein and bleiben also form perfect with sein. The verbs sein and bleiben also form the perfect tense with sein. Remember the sein and bleiben individually, they also form perfect with sein. In the example you have Anna ist krank gewesen and then wir sind zu Hause geblieben. Right? Wir sind zu Hause geblieben. Okay then, so what I want to do just to make it more clear, I want to give you two tables. The first table is showing you the full conjugation of sein. I want to give you a table showing you the full conjugation of sein and also haben. Let's go ahead. Let's begin with sein. So you're saying that in present tense, just have a look at the verb sein in present tense. It is ich bin, I am. Ich bin, du bist, you are. Es ist, sie sind, wir sind, and then ihr seid, sie sind, sie sind. That is in the present tense. And then in the past tense, imperfect repetition, ich war, I was. Du warst, es war, Sie waren, wir waren. And then I have ihr wart, sie waren. That is in the past tense. And then in the perfect tense, now becomes ich bin gewesen. Remember, this one means I have been. Ich bin gewesen. I have been. Du bist gewesen. You have been. Es ist gewesen, which means he, she, it has been. Sie sind gewesen. You have been. Wir sind gewesen. So throughout your saying is gewesen, 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 gewesen. It is only the bin gewesen, du bist gewesen, es ist gewesen, as you proceed in that order. So remember, the ich bin gewesen means I have been. Du bist gewesen, you have been, as you proceed in that order of sentence, okay? And then you have haben, which means to have, haben. So present tense, ich habe, I have, du hast, as hat, he, she, it has. Sie haben, wir haben, ihr habt, and then sie haben, sie haben. Now the past tense or the imperfect is ich hatte, I had. Du hattest, you had. Hatte. Sie hatten, wir hatten, we had, ihr hattet. And then sie hatten, sie hatten. And then the perfect is ich habe gehabt, I have had. People confuse I have been and I have had. Remember, for haben is ich habe gehabt, which means I have had. Du hast gehabt, you have had. Es hat gehabt, sie haben gehabt. Wir haben gehabt, ihr habt gehabt. Sie haben gehabt, sie haben gehabt. So, now that you've seen the full table showing you sein and haben in present, in past, and in perfect, we would like to use that knowledge in the following exercise. So I'd like you to pause here, just pause, and then try translating these sentences, and then come back and mark. So it goes like this. Write in German. I was sick. From the table, was is war. Ich war krank. Ich war krank. My father had a car. My father had a car. Check on the table of haben. Father is under as is. So you say, mein Vater hatte ein Auto. Mein Vater hatte ein Auto. I have been at home. I have been at home. Now you'll check on the table of sein, which means have been in the perfect tense. Have been. So I have been at home. That should be ich bin zu Hause gewesen. Ich bin zu Hause gewesen. We have been sick. We have been sick. Again, this becomes wir sind zu Hause gewesen. If you check on the table of sein, you will see that have been is the gewesen. Ich bin gewesen, du bist gewesen, wir sind gewesen. So we have been sick now should become wir sind krank gewesen. Don't say wir sind gewesen krank. No, wir sind krank gewesen. I am a student. Simply say ich bin Student for male and ich bin Studentin for female. Last example. He was my friend. War mein Freund. He was my friend. War mein Freund. Okay, I want to take the last one here. My father has had a house. My father has had a house, should it be? Mein Vater hat ein Haus gehabt. Mein Vater hat ein Haus gehabt. All right, my father had a house. Right, so in the next audio then, I would like us to be seeing on the formation of perfect tense. Yeah? We've only seen on when to use haben, when to use sein, and also the past tense. In the next audio, I want us to proceed and see on the formation of perfect tense. All right?